afternoon and welcome to our last meeting. It's hard to believe that May is here, but appreciate everybody being here today and those watching us on our YouTube channel. The invocation tonight will be led by Mayor Pro Tem John Roberts and Albert Weeks from the States Department.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here tonight, we ask for your guidance on this council. We ask that the decisions made here tonight will be pleasing in your eyes and beneficial to our entire city. Father, as we prepare for our city soiree, please be with our administration, our employees, and our staff, as well as our volunteers, as they prepare for our community to celebrate together. Dear God, we ask, as always, that you be with our first responders. Please keep them safe as they place themselves in danger to protect us. Father God, we're thankful to live in this great nation. We ask that you watch over us and protect us each and every one. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into the business of our meeting tonight, we do have a special recognition in regards to a public service. And I'm going to get Chief King to come down and to the podium and possibly lead us in that one, Chief. Either way, that'd be good.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity tonight to recognize some pretty incredible team members that serve our community every day. If you wouldn't mind, before I get in, if you allow me to call those to the front so that they can again be recognized as we talk about them a little bit. First is Battalion 1 Chief Brian Black, Engine 1 Grant Brady, Josh Poole, and Nick Bates. Ladder Company 1 Jeremy Duncan, Austin Elgin, Hunter Hardline, Stephen Eller. Engine 2 Bryce Lyde, Cameron Cromer, Dallas Mahaffey, and Damon Robinson. Engine 3 Michael Hobbs, John Urban, Corey Hawkins, Michael Andrew. Car 3 Captain Ryan Herring. Anderson Police Department Officer Chris Waters. Anderson County Central Dispatch Derek Kennedy, Helen Carter. Medshore Dispatch Aaron Bradenberg, Corrine Skelly. Medshore Ambulance Service Medic 9 Griffin Martin, Larkin Middleton. Medic 10 Morgan Kidd, Shannon McCullough. Medic 11 Joseph Patterson, Michael Bowie. Medic 19 Deanna Brown, Eric Wilkinson. Alpha 4 Paramedic Bobby Huff. Alpha 5 Paramedic James Howard. Alpha 8 Nicholas Hatchett. Anderson County EMS Supervisor Jared Bingle. ALS 3 Bryce Cater. I brought all of my friends with me tonight. To the families and co-workers of those that are standing up here tonight, thank you for allowing them to serve us and for joining us tonight to recognize them. Ready? All right. Just after 1:30 a.m. on April the 3rd, the Anderson County 911 Center began receiving calls for a report of a house fire on Brown Street, just off of Whitner. Those calls were processed by dispatchers in under a minute, and the first responders were alerted to a citizen in need. In just 4 minutes, crews from Fire Station 1 arrived on scene to find heavy smoke coming from all sides of the small house. As firefighters began to stretch their initial hose lines to battle the fire inside of the structure, both dispatchers and bystanders were sharing information that there were as many as 3 people remaining inside. Battalion Chief Brian Black and Ladder 1 began to survey each side of the house, where they found 2 men opening a window on the rear in an attempt to locate those missing. The crew from Ladder 1 quickly made access to this window where they were able to remove a mother and begin performing life-saving care a safe distance from her now burning home. Ladder 1 firefighters made access into the same window and quickly located a child unresponsive just inside. She was removed from the fire and taken directly to the ambulance that was arriving on scene. 2 additional firefighters from Ladder 1 and Engine 2 continued their search of a rear bedroom where they located and quickly removed the second and unconscious child. All 3 victims were taken to ambulances where the crews from MedShore and Anderson County EMS began to provide the advanced life support care that was needed if they were to survive. On most any other day, each of these patients would have received a medical helicopter flight from the scene to a trauma center or directly to the burn center in Augusta. But as this incident was unfolding, so were strong thunderstorms across Anderson. The option of a helicopter for transport was not an option. The EMS crews and ALS units worked together to ensure that each of the patients had the appropriate level of care and then began their ground transport to Prisma Hospital in downtown Greenville. There, each of those victims received stabilizing care and were later transported to the Augusta Burn Center, where they remained until being released to continue their recovery at home. The events that occurred on the morning of April 3rd do not happen often. As a firefighter or any first responder, many go their whole careers with limited opportunities to truly effect a rescue. But when that time comes, it's your individual level of training and the total team's commitment to duty that will determine the outcome. 3 members of our community are alive today because of the training and commitment to duty shown by an entire team of first responders. While only a couple of you were physically involved in the 3 lives who were in peril, more than 31 others continued extinguishing the fire, securing utilities, searching the home for other occupants, blocking traffic for responding units, relaying critical information over the radio, interviewing family members, providing direct medical care, providing rehab, determining hospital destinations, and even beginning to pray for those who you have never met. It was the team that succeeded. And that team is standing right here with us tonight. While there are 5 different logos and badges being worn by those in front of you, the mission was the same, to save lives. 3 lives were saved that night because you cared enough to focus on training each day and every day and to uphold our commitment to serve those in our community. On behalf of the entire city of Anderson, mayor, council, administration, and myself, thank you for what you do every day, and especially for the difference you made to those on April the 3rd. Amen. Congratulations and thank you. And each of them has in their hands, they've received as part of their unit a unit citation that recognizes not only themselves, but their individual units that they were part of that night to make that team effort successful. So again, each one of you, thank you for what you do every day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
So much.
Personally appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you guys. I appreciate all you do. Every day. We appreciate everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Appreciate everything you guys do. Appreciate it.
Chief, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Chief.
For all you do.
Great.
The minutes of the April 8th meeting were distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes? Not hearing any, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
First by Dr. Thompson,
Second.
second by Mr. Harbert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes of April 8th passed unanimously. We have a couple items of old business, and the first item is request for consideration of an ordinance to rezone approximately 3.5 acres at the southwest corner of South Mary Avenue and West Franklin Street from RM10 multifamily residential to a PDD, a planned development district. Mr. McEwen.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you're aware, this is a large development project at Murray and Franklin that we've talked with and been working alongside the developer on. This potential project has the ability to really transform the area and be a gateway into downtown Anderson. There's still a good many steps that we need to go through. It's a competitive process to be able to finalize the project or to land the project for development. This is part of the process, and the council previously referred it to the Planning Commission as part of a rezoning request from RM10 to PDD, and Maurice McKenzie will go over that in just a second, the details that's in your packet. The Planning Commission did meet on April 9th and unanimously recommended approval. This is to you on first reading. Mr. Maurice McKenzie.
Thank you. As Mr. McEwen mentioned, this is a project that all of you are familiar with, and the process is now to rezone the property to PDD, Planned Development District. The applicant is requesting that zoning classification in order to construct a multifamily development. The property that you see between Murray, Franklin, Johnson, and Towers actually consists of 11 parcels of land, all owned by the city of Anderson right now. That would be combined at some point. It consists of about 3.5 acres. Now, the property is currently zoned to RM10 multifamily residential, which does allow apartments and multifamily units, but the request to rezone it to PDD will allow more opportunities for innovative design along with other development controls, and the PDD document is included in your packet. Also in your packet, there are some renderings and also a site plan showing the layout and the way the property is proposed to look. Again, the PDD document is in your packet, but just a few of the highlights, touching on those, that there will be a maximum of 80 multifamily dwelling units. The maximum building height will be 4 stories. Setbacks 25 feet from each street frontage. There will be 20% open space on the site, and construction will consist of hardy board, brick, or stone, or a combination of products. And there will be significant street trees, canopy trees, and other landscaping per our new landscaping guidelines. And as the city manager mentioned, this did go before the Planning Commission on April 9th, and they did recommend approval of it. So this comes to you tonight for first reading.
And I'll add to Mr. Mayor and Council that what's in your packet, we've seen a couple different renderings of the concept design. However, this is what you have in your packet. It's still very early into the project development phase, and it's really meant to guide the plan development document that's also included in your packet, which is what you're adopting on first reading tonight is the PDD itself, not the concept plans. The concept plans provide some early visualization of the project. However, we're going to work with the developer should it proceed forward on the design and the nitty-gritty of that side of things.
Thanks for that input. That makes sense. Any other questions, comments?
I have a statement.
Ms. Lockridge?
It's like everything that happens. It takes a lot of time. I remember years and years ago when I first got on council, Tommy Dunaway, who was a council member at that time, was discussing this type of thing. And he wanted to see something to help people have housing for this area. I think it's a great opportunity for us as city council members to make sure that this is done and that we have new housing for folks. So I would like to adopt this change from RM10 to multifamily residential to PDD, Planned Development District.
We have a first by Mr. Lockridge,
Second.
second by Mr. Harvin. Further discussion? Mr. Roberts?
I'm also in favor of it. Have one question. Do you feel like 1.5 spaces per unit is adequate? And if not, where do we go to get more?
Yeah, Mr. McKenzie, you want to speak to that?
Correct, we've
Where
talked
that
to
came
the
from?
applicant, the 1.5 is a standard for this type of development, and that's what they requested in there. The applicant is here if we have any specific questions on how they arrive at that number, but again, we feel pretty comfortable with that based on the 80 units.
Maybe she can talk to it. Would you mind?
Yeah, and I did the math, should have done it sooner, but you have 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom, and let's assume everybody had a car. I know that's not the case, but that'd be 168. And I think 123 are provided.
1.5 is the minimum that we would put in, so that's what's drawn in there right now. Looking at the site plan, we probably will add about a dozen more parking spaces, but on typical, we don't have 2 cars per any bedroom type. Typically, it's 1 car for the most part on average for most of our communities. So we feel confident that 1.5 as a minimum is fine. And you know, what you see drawn on there, I think up by the, you got a copy of the site plan, I believe, in your packet.
They do, yes.
But up here in this section where we have a bunch of common area drawn, we'll probably be adding a little bit more parking up there.
And I forget your name totally.
Oh, Sarah Neiman.
That's right,
Yep, representing
Sarah.
Prestwick Development Company.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
I'm good.
Anything
Yeah,
else? Ms. Harvin? Let's do Dr. Thompson and
Okay,
Ms. Harvin.
you know I'm interested in this.
Oh, yes.
This is Murray Franklin Development that we've been working on for how many years, y'all? Many years. And so I'm proud to see we made it this far. And also, I'm glad to hear that if something needs to change for some other reasons, that we can do that. I was looking at the height. One has 4 stories, but I see one of them looking at 3 stories. Is that correct? The 2
Yes, ma'am. It's due
drawings
the-
that you have here?
It's due to the topography. So if you look at, hopefully you've got copies of, do you have renderings in your
Yeah.
packet?
We do.
Yeah.
Okay, so because of the topography and how it falls from Murray and it falls back down towards Tower Street, when you approach the property, it will appear 3 stories on one side from Murray and West Franklin. But once you enter the property on the inside, what I'll say of the inside of the L of the development here, this side here will be 4-story. But it's just because that's how the property is falling down. So from the street view here, everything will appear like it's 3 stories.
Yeah.
Mayor. So I'm reminded of one more question. I think in earlier conversations, when it goes to 4-story, you have to put in an elevator?
Correct, we will.
Is that the case here?
I don't think I'm actually required to do it, but we do it from, we're required to do it in our senior communities, but this one will be family, and we will be putting one in. It'll be somewhere here in the center, where you come in, all of our common areas, the community center, the fitness center, the business center, et cetera, all of that will be housed right here, in the kind of the corner of the L.
Okay,
And that's also where elevator access would be.
great. Ms. Harvin?
Just a quick question to remind me of the timeline. When will we first be getting the first, I know this is a lot of hurdles and challenges that we're going to have to overcome, but when do we get our first update? The end of May?
We submitted in February for what was called preliminary application.
Okay.
We're in Group B. There were about 40-something applications that went in. On paper, we are listed as 11th. However, some of those are duplicate counties and they cannot receive duplicate awards. So I think I'm sitting somewhere between 6th and 7th position in Group B, which is a really good position I feel like I'm comfortable in. I'm still trying to get our application to be around the 3rd or 4th position. And we will accomplish that through the revitalization plan that y'all have and with leveraging, I'm working with Ms. Mary Haley Thompson to make sure that we get those letters appropriately. All of that is due at the full application May 24th. And after that, then it obviously goes to underwriting with SC Housing. They may ask us some questions this summer, but for the most part, it stays kind of quiet while they go through everything that they need to do. We should hear scoring somewhere around probably August, with notification of a formal notification of basically where the dollars are and where the state credits run out by September, maybe at the latest October.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Do you feel pretty confident that this is going to be approved?
I like our chances. I think the last time I was here, we were talking about Caitlin Clark shooting 3-pointers. And, you know, I still believe in Caitlin Clark, and I'm still hoping for a good chance. And I do. I like where we are positioned. We are the only one that's submitted inside the city limits of Anderson. There is one more applicant that is inside Anderson County. But I'm really less concerned about that than I am overall, you know, trying to beat some of the other counties within the state. But, yeah, I'm still feeling like our odds are pretty good.
And our staff continues, we'll continue working with you and working to try to leverage some
Those are
additional
critical.
points and try to have the most competitive application we can in for the final one.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, real quick, Mayor.
Ms. Roberts.
No, I think that's great, and I hope we're 100%, you know, successful in that. I hope you are. But I do have a question, and I don't remember at what point, but I know Dr. Thompson was asking about the design of it a minute ago. I was pretty confident we left off, we had pointed out some of the one off of
Augusta Road.
Augusta Road, and it had more of a townhome, I think, type. I maybe correct me if I'm wrong. So I thought that was the direction this was kind of going. I know we talked about there could be, you know, more design change or whatever, but I thought that's where we left off. Either way, I'm happy to see. both
Yeah,
of them,
so-
but I was pretty confident that's what Dr. Thompson was pushing for.
Some of the, we talked about that and looked at some of them, and there was a lot of, there was talk too of course, extending the building to make that curb line all the way from street to street, which has been accomplished.
Yeah.
Also, of course, there's advantages to having an elevator, and so I think that's a great addition to the 4-story with the using the terrain to help with that. But that Augusta Road project sits up on a hill, and so you know, if you would have gone a 3 or 4, it would have looked like a tower on top there. Here, you know, you on the front side. 3, it's not going to seem that significant and help with the curb line, especially as you come into downtown. Everything's really 3 stories, and even our building heights of the downtown are really a 3-story building, and so then tearing it down to the 4, I think makes a lot of sense. So you have to, I believe, you know, you're still getting that effect of it not being too vertical of a building, but we're getting that whole curb line from street to street by stretching it out and getting that gateway appeal coming into the city. So it's starting to create that urban or downtown feel as you come in. And so, because you're really looking at this being the anchor, the south anchor at Murray, and then from here forward, it being infilled as a continuing downtown development, right? And so I think this sets it right on par, is my opinion. Yep.
Just,
Yeah.
I'm glad you
that was
brought
where we
that
left
up.
off. That's the reason
Yep.
I brought that up, because
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
glad you did.
pretty
because-
similar to where we dropped, which obviously, again, I have no problem with either way. I just remember that was because we talked about stretching down into the playground. I don't know if y'all remember that. All
Yeah.
that moving across the way was.
We did talk about it a lot that night.
John, I just confirmed with Sarah, we still have some time to massage some of the architectural details. This isn't blanket approval of
Right,
architecture.
we're
tonight.
approving
It's
the.
Just the site plan.
The
and the-
ordinance tonight. Yeah,
That's right.
I'm with you.
Good.
I'm happy either way,
Yeah,
just
sure.
FYI.
I'm with you.
Any other questions,
Well,
comments?
that's not a question, but one
Yes,
thing
ma'am.
that Jeff brought up was about the parking. That's gonna be a challenge to us, I think, if it's only like 1 car per unit.
1.5 per unit. And Sarah just said that was their minimum standard.
That's minimum, yes. We will exceed the
could do-
1.5.
We could do, we can do more, and it sounds like we are gonna do more.
That's just the minimum that we have to put in according to the PDD.
I understand. Any other questions, comments?
Great start, I have to put it that way.
Thank you.
I'd entertain a motion.
I think we had a motion.
I've already made the motion.
You
Had
made
a
it,
motion
I
and a
second.
second.
I got
I made it,
confused
she
in all the
seconded.
discussion. We had a first, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously on the first reading. Thank you, sir. A second item of old business, request consideration of an agreement for a seasonal ice rink in Carolina Wren Park. Mr. McHugh.
This item was continued from our last meeting, and Mr. Andrew Strickland, Assistant City Manager, will go over this item.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Mayor and Council, as Mr. McEwen mentioned, this item was considered last time. There were a couple of questions I'll be happy to address in just a second, but briefly I'll go over the request one more time. This is a request with Seasonal Ice LLC to install and maintain a real ice rink in Carolina Wren Park for the 2024 Christmas season. This would be kind of a revamping of Holiday Ice, the way we have historically done the programming. We have operated since 2015 a synthetic rink in Carolina Wren Park for Holiday Ice. It's been a big draw for our community. However, the last couple of years, numbers have waned a little bit. And so introducing a real ice rink to Carolina Wren Park for Holiday Ice is seen as kind of a revamping and a recommitment to downtown Anderson during the holiday season. So one of the questions that we had previously from Councilman Stewart last time was involving kind of a larger marketing effort and a marketing plan. That was very well received. I spoke with our community events manager in the interim, and she and I she thought it was a great idea. Anytime we have an opportunity to rebrand, refresh, kind of take another look at how we do events and who we advertise to and how we bring folks into the community, we're happy to do that. So we are going to commit to putting that plan together and bring that back to you guys at a later date. And one of the other questions from Councilman Roberts had to do with ownership of the rink, and we did confirm with our vendor, Seasonal Ice, that we are just renting the rink, and at the end of that period, we will not have any assets to own or maintain ourselves. And he did confirm the majority of the rental fee is for the chiller that actually makes the ice. It's a pretty expensive item to have 24/7 on site for a month and a half, 2 months of a year. So again, no physical assets will own at the end of this, but they will provide 24/7 support, setup, event planning services, all for that fee of $137,500. And I'll be happy to ask or answer any questions that you may ask. And again, staff does recommend that we do this.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? Do we store it after the season, or does it go with them?
No, sir, that's included in their fee as well. They set it up, take it down, and store it until the next season.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Locke?
does Greenville do the same type of thing?
They do. They actually use the exact same company.
Okay.
The City of Rock Hill does
So
as well.
basically, they don't own the rink either?
No, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Harvey?
I'm excited to hear about the marketing aspect of it, and, and I'm not gonna sit here to act like I'm a marketing expert, but, I would like to think creative, whether that's kids-free, and I can't even remember what we charged for the synthetic ice for adults and children. I know we skated there a couple of years ago. I can't remember when me and my family went, and I don't remember how much it was.
6 and over is $5 a skate, and everybody under 6 is free.
Okay. So, and I don't know if we need to expand that, because the main purpose is to drive, tourism. We're never going to be able to put a dent in the annual cost of the lease of the equipment, and I'd certainly want to market it so every young person in the city, within our city limits, could skate for free if they wanted to, or something, $1, or some combination of something. So just look at that. I'd just recommend, y'all marketing, creativity people can do a lot better job than I can. So just figure out how we can get a lot of people skating.
Sure.
Good idea. Any other comments, questions? Ms. Roberts, Jeff?
I would encourage that the marketing plan be broader than just the ice rink, but the entire Christmas season.
Yeah.
And just lights and restaurants and the shopping and the whole experience. And I would encourage y'all to consider the whole Christmas season in your marketing plan.
Certainly.
Good point. And I think last year was the first year that we used the outside vendor for lights last year.
I think it was the second year.
Second year?
Yes, sir.
30, yeah.
30.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. Especially in the Belt parking lot. That was the
That's right.
first
Yeah,
time we've done
we
that.
add something new every year. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Good. I understand the Christmas tree at the county is gonna be higher too this year.
That's what we hear.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I think it grows every year,
No, brother.
yeah. Any other questions?
one question.
Yes, sir, Ms. Lockhart?
As far as getting people downtown, I think that's a good thing, but one of the things I was thinking about is reporting back to the council on how things are going. I think that's a real important thing, something we really didn't do a lot of when we were talking about the other rink. And I think it's important, I won't be here, but whoever is here needs to know how it's doing and what kind of reaction people of the community are having to it.
That's a good point.
That's an excellent point.
And
No,
usually, what I look to do is add those in my monthly council update emails and provide that feedback and the numbers and so forth.
And I think even
So
beyond
bring
that, I
it
think we
forth
can
up here as well.
easily commit to an after action, after the season is done, to come back and see what was actually done.
Well, I think if you have a good marketing plan, the thing will be packed every night. I mean, it should be.
Should be.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
Have you heard a lot from the young people about what you're gonna do with the Red Park skating rink? Have you heard a lot from the young people, teenagers and so forth? That's gonna be the main draw for them, I think.
We hope so. I think that was some of the anecdotal evidence we had heard that the synthetic rink was starting to kind of lose appeal. You know,
Yeah.
they say, oh, this is fake ice. We can go to Greenville and get real ice. We
Yeah,
can go to,
that's.
you know, I think this will kind of solidify that a little bit more.
So I guess what Jeff was saying, you have to have more than just a skating rink to draw
Yes.
them out. Skating rink could be a big deal, but, you know,
Yep.
what else?
Yeah.
Good marketing plan.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else, guys?
I think we need to make a motion that we should accept the agreement with the seasonal ice rink in Carolina Wren Park.
Take that as a first.
Second.
Dr. Thompson has a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously on general approval. We have 3 items of new business, and the first item is request consideration of a housing demolition contract. Mr. McEwen?
This item before you is part of our strategic goal in advancing the quality of life by reducing blight through demolition and clearance projects. It's also a budgeted item that we have, and we recently added to a little bit of additional funds this past year. With that, this is a bid approval in front of you. Mr. Maurice McKenzie has been managing this for us, and we'll go over this item for you.
Thank you. As Mr. McEwen mentioned, blighted housing conditions in neighborhoods are always a concern, and you have budgeted monies to help address houses in need of demolition. And of course, we have many houses that need to be demolished, but each year we need to come up with a priority list of a certain amount within our budget to demolish. And when we look at priority lists, we look obviously at housing condition, we look at the impacts these houses may have in neighborhoods. And of course, one key element is to get the consent of the property owner to demolish the houses. So what's coming before you tonight have to meet all of those criteria. And we identified a total of 13 structures but due to some emergency situations earlier in the year, we moved forward with tearing down two structures, 604 South Fant Street and 800 Kelly Street. So we have 13 identified, but what's coming before you tonight is for 11 houses. But part of the demolition process includes asbestos surveys, along with project designs on houses with asbestos. And we move forward with abating asbestos on 5 houses. So yes, we have a demolition budget, but a lot of the funds do go to other pieces of the demolition puzzle. So those steps have been taken. So we've moved forward with soliciting bids for the demolition and removal of the remaining 11 structures. We had a public bid opening on April 2nd. We received 3 bids, and as you can see in your packet, Phillips Recoveries, they're out of Anderson County. They were the low bid at $128,182. Seven Hills Construction out of the southern part of Anderson County, they bid $128,705, and then Complete Demolition Services out of Carrollton, Georgia came in at $330,000. So moving forward, the work will include demolition. Also, it is part of the contract that the demolition contractor clears the lot and puts it in a manner that can be easily maintained moving forward in the future. So again, we recommend that you go with the low bid with Phillips Recoveries in the amount of $128,182. The city's worked with Phillips Recoveries on many different projects, demolition and otherwise, over the years, so we feel confident with their quality of work.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Question.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. It's been quite a while since I guess I was first introduced to this, and I know we keep upping it every year, but in most cases, like let's say you said there were 2 emergency ones that you had to proceed with. So that means we did it because it was a danger to the neighborhood.
Correct. It
Right?
was considered an imminent danger to public
Right.
safety.
In those cases, do we place a lien on?
Yeah, Maurice, you want to answer that on the back end of how we record that?
Yeah, we do place a lien on the properties, and again, we don't acquire the properties
Right.
after this typically. So it still remains in the ownership of the individual property owners.
So if they ever sell it or convey it?
Yeah, at
Someone else-
closing, it's
The lien.
it's
It
paid at
shows up,
closing,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
Just
Good
like
question.
tax lien essentially.
Any other questions, Dr. Thompson?
Comment. You know, we're tearing down, demolishing a lot of these houses, but the property that you tear the house down is still there, it's still a blight. Are we making any plans as to what's to be placed in the areas where these blighted houses are being torn down and left there, you know, just there? You have the lot that's still there, the house is gone, but it's still a blight in the community. So are we planning as to what's the follow-up once we tear the houses down?
Yeah, great question. So remember on these, it remains private property. So it is somebody's lot that they own, and they may pursue building on that. We've seen a lot of infill development here recently with some of these lots. The market is driving that, where you're seeing these houses being built, which is great. We haven't seen that in some time in some of these areas, so that's great that we're seeing private investment come along with us as the city's moving forward economically. And then also, we do have city-owned lots that we're working with, and, we've worked with, as you know, Dr. Thompson, all kind of different groups that have built houses, and we'll continue to do that. But these lots themselves, something's happened to them. A lot of them been burned, they've caught on fire, they've just gotten in really bad shape that sees the ability of the private owner to tear it down. And so with that, essentially, it's a code enforcement issue, and we got to where we have to abate it for public safety. However, the lot, and that's what we're doing, we're abating it for public safety, but the lot itself remains in private ownership. And so it's not to our decision making to what goes there, other than how it's zoned. That's zoned residential.
You know, I see the signs all over the city. We buy houses, and if you talk to those folks who saying that get things in the mail, the ones of you who own houses now, you probably get a letter every day from somebody saying, we buy houses, we wanna buy. Is there a way that the city can work with these folks to make sure that, you know, you don't know whether or not this is a bargain? What is this?
I don't think.
Why are we having all these folks coming in your city saying, we buy houses? I wanna talk to you about your house.
I think
So
probably,
interesting question.
you know, I think probably what I'm seeing, even on Stevens Street, I
Yeah.
noticed that there's a vacant lot or a couple. One, there's a new construction going, maybe
Yeah, there's two.
there are two, and I think, David, and we've talked about how, which is a smart move, where people are buying these lots from these individuals that own it, maybe possibly enough to pay off the lien so they can have ownership of it, and they don't have to worry about the infrastructure because the roads and the sewer and the water's already there. And so, I mean, I've noticed there are a couple right over Holly Street and, you know, several that, and I think that'll happen more and more, Dr. Thompson, as we go on.
So I'm wondering, is that a good way to go? Is there a way that?
Speed it up?
Yeah, to speed it up and to have the city, like Maurice, with the planner, and somebody just come along and say, we buy a house and buy it on a lot or whatever, and just stick the house there. Could there be some kind of planning with this?
Well, I don't.
With these folks?
I don't
who
think
come-
that's our best partnerships. You start off with one, the signs are unlawful. Second, you call the numbers, they don't work. And third, they don't have a business license.
Don't have a what?
A business license. And so you really want to partner with people that good stewards of working with governments, local governments, as the city has, and different nonprofits. And really now what's changed though is the private sector and some of these local builders that are coming in and buying the lots, and that's really market driven. And so that's a good thing, and that's a big change again than what we haven't seen that in some of these areas in a while. So just as the mayor commented, you'll continue to see that, Dr. Thompson, some good ways forward there. And then our ability to work with the lots that we own in some areas.
So what do we do with our own lots?
So we're still working on a section that we want to put out for a request for proposals to developers to do that. We've had interest. We have people asking us. Some haven't been the best fit yet. And again, and that goes back to just as we bring no different than how we bring an economic development project to you, just like Murray Franklin, that it has to be a good partner that we're going to work with that's vetted by your staff. And so we continue to look for that partner, and then we can look to an entire area. We have groupings of areas that we have city lots that are all contiguous to each other, and thereby you can rebuild that neighborhood. And as the mayor mentioned, it's a lot more cost effective to do that than go in and take raw land, as you see in other places in the city, and then where you have to put water lines and sewer lines on the road. Yeah, everything's there, and so you have lots ready to go to be built.
And I think we actually talked about that at our retreat last year, about grouping these lots together and
We did, but you know, we have seems like at one time, neighborhood development program with the city division, neighborhood development, did a better job of going out into the community, but it was on the west side and east side and south side. We have all these old houses, like burnt houses, and so how can we make our community look better? Well, like Murray Franklin is a good start, but all over Rose Hill and all those places, y'all know that. You have these old lots growing up, and you have houses in bad shape, holes in the ceiling. I think we need to put more effort into seeing what can be done to make it better for these neighborhoods.
So, if you allow me to answer that. So, we still, our community development department still does rehabs. We're still involved in the rehabilitation of houses in these neighborhoods that you're talking about.
Oh, but the line is so long.
It's so long, that's right. You're exactly right. The line is so long, and the number of contractors that want to do that work is small. So last year, we actually partnered with Rebuild Upstate to kind of make that list a little bit shorter, if that makes sense. So to get to a lot more houses than we have in the past, and so that's helped. One of the other things that, to kind of piggyback off what Mr. McEwen said, we are going through our comprehensive planning process to set a vision citywide for what development looks like, not only citywide, but also in these neighborhoods. And so at the end of that comprehensive planning process, we'll have that vision, because the last thing we want to do is just jump in and do a bunch of work and try to find a contractor that builds something in these neighborhoods that doesn't pay attention, it doesn't respect the neighborhoods. We want to make sure that anything that's built respects the neighborhood. So once we have that vision, we're going to come back and we'll put that program together that we've talked about and that we intend to do. Put that program together so we can find builders and folks who want to build these houses so people can live in these neighborhoods and they revitalize once again to what they used to be, right?
That's good, Andrew, but I don't want to just prolong this, but it would be nice if this whole council got together on one of the buses and just went through some of the areas. We've done that before. To see, well, we're sitting here on council talking about that, but let's look and see what is it we're talking about? Where is it on roads here? What are we looking at? What houses are torn down? What lots are grown up? Just to get in your head, not just talking about it, but seeing it with your own eyes, I think it would inspire you then to say, maybe we really should do something about that. Maybe something could be done. Maurice, I talked about going down Franklin Street, but we were trying to do so many things. The next thing I knew was look over there and there's an ABC store growing up that we didn't know a thing about, where we're trying to develop the street. So just kind of getting out there and open your eyes and see what are we talking about to make our city in certain areas that's really growing. But then there are other areas that need to have attention. So couldn't we just set up one day?
That's a good point. We probably hadn't done that in the
bus
last
ride.
2 or 3 years, so.
Let's see, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Houses buried down. What are we talking about? Old lots grown up. This is our city.
Mr. Harvey?
I would, also like to revisit our inventory of what we have. At one point in time, it's been a few years ago, we did do a ride and then we had a map of what we get and what we don't get and what we've obtained. Our city attorney's gotten us some property through the years for different reasons, and just, have a look and see what we actually are revitalizing through that. I am amazed, when I got on council, coming up on 16 years, believe it or not, I'm amazed at the number of houses that have been torn down. It seemed to be more aggressive when I first got on, but there's two things that, it always amazed me how many were on the list, and it was always around $10,000 to tear one down. And 16 years later, it's still just a little over $10,000. I'm shocked that hasn't gone up, because it costs a whole lot more to build it than it does, and they take these things down in like an afternoon. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing what they do. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that, and I remember seeing Phillips Recovery quite a few times through the years, and if Mr. Maurice is happy with them, then I make a motion to approve this.
Second.
First by Mr. Harvin, second by the Mayor Pro Tem. Good discussion. Any further discussion?
One more question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I recall that we upped the budget amount for housing demolition,
Correct.
and as I recall, maybe it was in the $250,000 range. Is that correct?
Well, we have $200,000, so we went from 100,000 to 200,000
Okay.
on the general fund, and then we have about 50,000 CDBG that's there as well. So this is out of the $200,000 budget.
All right, so we're roughly halfway there-ish.
This does it because we've already spent $74,000 for the commercial building tear down, along with the 604 South Main Street. The Kelly Street was a significant tear down, and so that brings us to right at our number here.
So this will complete the budget,
This
budgeted amount for demolition.
This current
Correct.
year.
Okay.
This cycle. And we have the same amount in for next year's budget too. Right now, where we're at, just budget-wise, we're catching up on facilities and so forth. It would take away from a public safety investment, police or fire, capital needs, if you went from 200 to 300,000, for example. But we can talk about that in our budget meetings.
Good. And most of us have seen this a long time on this council right now. And I think about something Jeff said several years ago about the lifespan of a building. It just seems like they only last but so long. And the ones we're tearing down obviously reached the end of their lifespan. So we had a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Our next item is a request consideration of a resolution requesting the South Carolina Department of Transportation to explore and implement safety improvements to the intersection of North Fent Street and East Malden Street. Ms. McEwen?
Okay, recently, a couple council members, Mr. Lawford reached out as well about this intersection. It's been an intersection that we've looked at and talked with DOT about numerous times in the past. Looked at, there's some conflict points to it that Mr. McKenzie will describe a little bit more detail here in a second. But overall, it's a busy intersection. Traffic backs up and it causes issues. And so what you have before you, let me describe that first, is just a resolution that's requested by South Carolina Department of Transportation to formally adopt, asking and directing them to work with the city as they're offering to do so, and directing them to work with us on reducing conflict points at this intersection. And Mr. McKenzie, if you want to talk about some of what that means, the conflict points and some of that language, that would be helpful.
Sure, thank you. Mr. McEwen covered pretty much what the purpose of this request is tonight regarding the resolution, but yes, the North Fant, East Malden Street intersection is problematic. We see a lot of auto accidents at that intersection. It's a challenge because it has several curb cuts in the area. You have a high traffic count. You have a nearby intersection that's busy with Boulevard and North Fant just a few feet up from there. So again, you have a lot of issues with that particular intersection. And both streets, East Malden and North Fant, are both in the SCDOT system. So any improvements to that intersection would need to be authorized by that agency. Also, the work completed by that agency as well. And in speaking with the DOT, and when there is a community concern like this, they do like to see an official request come from the governing body, in this case in form of a resolution, which will act as the official request for the DOT to explore safety improvements in this area and then work to implement some changes with input from city staff. So that's one thing we do request from the DOT. But again, this will be a resolution authorizing the DOT to explore and implement safety improvements to that intersection.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Mayor, I make a motion that we pass the resolution to work with the DOT regarding this intersection. I'm also pleased to see that amount of open land there, so hopefully something unique can come out of that.
I was thinking about that too. What could they,
What an opportunity.
roundabout?
Sounds possible, doesn't it?
We have a first by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lockridge. Any further discussion?
I would like to say something.
Yes, sir.
Due to the fact that my wife has a lot of drugs and stuff that we have to get for her health, I've dropped in on drugs quite often. And in the last month, I have seen 2 wrecks, and I don't spend a lot of time there, but I've seen 2 wrecks in the last month at that intersection. I honestly don't know how many wrecks there are or what the count is, but it has to be a great many people having wrecks there. It is a very confusing intersection, and the biggest thing that I can see is the fact that people get impatient. And when they get impatient, then they rush, and when they rush, they don't watch, and when they don't watch, they have the accidents. And it's something has to be done here, and to cut down on this, for the safety of the people, just generally for the safety of the people.
I agree. It's almost like you just have to put your foot on the pedal and try to get through that one if you're going that way, or go another way. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. The last item of new business is request consideration to amend the contract with Black and, that's VTech?
Beach.
Veach for
Yes.
the Generosity Creek Relief Sewer Project. Mr. McCool?
This project is part of the $10 million grant that we received, that we put in for a very competitive grant for the Generosity Creek Relief Sewer Project. And what that means is this is the big transmission line, the conveyance line that runs down Generosity Creek to the wastewater treatment plant and conveys all the wastewater that's received from the city and from the county as they intersect into the pipe as well. So this is our very large diameter pipe that's being replaced. And so with that, we're working through several different things. Before you is a request we have to acquire additional easements for the project, some permanent, some temporary. And this is a request for the negotiation and pursuing that forward to be able to help us acquire the easements. Mr. Scott Banks managing this project, and he'll go over the details. Mr. Banks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. As Mr. McEwen alluded to, and as reminding you again, in April of last year, we were awarded a $10 million grant for the Generosity Creek Relief Sewer. The total estimated cost of this project was $13,337,657. And we're now at a point where we have the proposed alignment for the sewer line. And along this alignment, there are approximately 40 parcels that we have to either obtain an amended right-of-way or a new right-of-way. And due to the number of parcels and the need to keep this project moving forward to meet the December 2026 deadline for completion of construction, we asked Black & Veatch to give us a proposed amendment to their original contract for an easement acquisition contractor to work with those property owners in obtaining those necessary easements. Their proposed amendment is a not-to-exceed time and materials contract at a price of $126,500. This is at the upper end of what we think the cost would actually be. It will mainly depend on how quickly they can make these negotiations happen with the property owners. And this would also be a part of the matching funds that we were required to put forth as part of the grant that we were awarded. It continues to support our strategic goal of ensuring sustainable growth by pursuing long-term infrastructure projects and maintaining sewer treatment capacity, and it would be funded through the sewer budget. In summary, staff's recommending amending the existing Generosity Creek Relief Sewer engineering contract with Black & Veatch by $126,500 for the assistance of right-of-way procurement. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Remind me, I know we got the grant last year. We were awarded a grant in 2023, correct?
Yes.
Good. And I think that was a competitive grant?
It was.
Statewide?
So you had to do preliminary engineering, PER, submit the PER. And we were very fortunate to get it. There's many utilities that put in around us that did not receive the funds. And so we were one of the fortunate, I think it was just us and one other utility in Anderson County that received one. Is that correct?
Right, that's Clemson Pendleton waste treatment plant they received the grant, but other than that, I think that was it
Yep.
in Anderson County.
So the city and Clemson Pendleton, the wastewater treatment project received one. So we're fortunate we put in a good competitive one that really fit the guidelines of what they were looking for, and that's what you got to look at in these things. which reduces the risk for them when they vet the grant application. And we did just that, and feel like we had the perfect project for it, and thereby we're successful in acquiring it. So this is a huge help to us, because otherwise we would need to be doing this project, and we would be taking a bond out to do that against against our rate structure. So rates would have to pay for that bond. And in this case, receiving $10 million is a very good thing for us and all our ratepayers.
I assume a company like Black and Veatch they did this in-house as far as the purchasing of parcels?
This is actually a subcontractor, and we could have gone out and got our own subcontractor,
Okay.
but it's one they use, and we decided to keep it under the umbrella of them so that everything is systematic in the design. And also, they have a surveyor that's working with them too that does the actual parcel plat of the easement, and then this is a negotiation process. But again, it's based on the time it takes, so the cost there, and this is the do not exceed amount. So.
Gotcha. I'll open it up. Any other questions? Mr. Roberts? Jeff?
Couple of questions. Can our sewer budget handle this $126,500
Yes, sir.
expenditure? All right, and assuming we have to pay for right-of-way, where is that money budgeted?
We have that in our budget as well. We have the estimate of what, when we were doing the budget for the whole overall project, that 13 million included any right-of-way acquisition as well. And so we have a 2 point, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but 2 point something million match that we have to do, and that is included in that 10 million of the overall $13 million project.
So the right-of-way acquisition is built into the overall project?
Yes, sir.
Project?
Yes, sir.
budget?
Yeah, so when you actually fill out the grant application, it has an itemization of that. You have to, they always know there's going to be right-of-way acquisition, so we put in a budget line item number for that, and that's just a normal fill-in on these applications as well, that they're aware of the process, of course, with these projects. So the goal is, number one, negotiate the price on a fair basis, but ultimately acquire it for the project.
Yeah, so just basically, we could have gone out and hired the same person, but what we're really looking for here is to allow the engineers to oversee him through their umbrella so that they can keep it on a.
Yeah, from a speed
managed timeline.
standpoint, yes, sir.
And
as-
that saves us the administrative costs of doing it ourselves.
Yes, sir,
as well.
exactly.
So
And as Mr.
it's a fair
McEwen
deal.
indicated, we could have done that, but it would have taken a little bit longer, and we are on a time crunch to make sure that we get the funds spent. The South Carolina, for whatever reason, delayed the SCIP monies that they awarded. A lot of the other states, surrounding states, they had awarded the SCIP monies as much as a year prior to South Carolina doing it. So with that delay, it put everybody in a kind of a time crunch, which is one of the reasons we
So
chose
it's
to
just
do it.
one federal deadline?
Yes, sir. And that's one of the reasons we chose a linear project. Some folks that are doing plant projects, if they're having to wait on pumps to come in or other equipment to come in, I'm not so certain that they can meet those timelines. But again, that's why we chose a linear project, because all we're having to do is pipe.
Good point. And the deadline is 2026?
December 2026, yes. Sir.
Gotcha. Any other questions, comments?
Make a motion to approve.
First by the Mayor Pro Tem,
Sorry, I didn't know you didn't have a motion. Second.
second by Mr. Harbert. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Banks.
Okay, we got, Mr. Mayor and Council, just a real quick note for Mr. Strickland regarding our upcoming weekend.
Yeah, big weekend in Anderson.
Heard about it.
Heard about it?
Heard a little bit.
That's good. That's good. Soiree's coming to
Every
town.
time we turn on the radio.
Soiree's coming to town. Big headliner performance on Main Street, right in front of City Hall. Josh Turner on Friday night starting at 7. So come one, come all. It's going to be a great weekend. It looks like the weather's going to be absolutely perfect. So Josh Turner Friday night, and then just all day festivities, food trucks, art, events for kids. Our downtown merchants will be open. So come on down. We're going to have a really good time. Petting zoo. So yeah, buy some art, get a funnel cake for your family, and let your kids go pet a groundhog. I think Charles the groundhog is going to be there too. That's pretty exciting. But I would be remiss if I didn't thank our staff and our volunteers for all of the hard work that they've done. Caroline Gaddis is the ringmaster for the soiree, and she has a wonderful crew of folks in the community that just love the soiree as much as she does and help us put it on every year. So we absolutely thank her and thank that volunteer team.
Very good. And like you say, we've been very fortunate, knock on wood, I mean, the third year in a row having good weather. So that's always a good thing.
Mr. Mayor, can I hit on something real quick?
Yes, sir.
You know, I've been on council for a while now, and I think I referenced that like 16 years. But our ceremony's starting out tonight. I mean, there's certain things that I think are important to our citizens and our city, but those 31 people that went to work that night, they didn't have a clue what was gonna happen that evening. And I know it was a combination of our city employees and some other agencies that made the success happen. But, you know, that through that emergency, you know, our city employees excelled. And I know that we did a lot to recognize that, but, you know, you read so much on social media that's negative about a lot of different things, but, you know, that should be really, you know, highlighted. And then, you know, last week, under the mayor's leadership and the rest of the team, you know, the International Network of Michelin Cities also gave our city a chance to shine worldwide, which I think that's almost unbelievable to say, how they were able to pull that off and you know, gave us that opportunity. And it just makes me proud for the citizens and our staff, you know, but more so for the citizens of Anderson, that, you know, we go from saving 3 lives to showcasing our city for to the world, not just, you know, locally. And then we're gonna, you know, kick off this weekend a soiree. And so just hats off to our citizens and our staff and the mayor's leadership on pulling all these things together. And that's all I got.
Good.
I would just add a little something to what Matt's saying about last week. And you know, you saw the end of it, but all the work that was done with Beth Batson, the mayor, and everybody else who worked, it was awesome. I mean, it was a wonderful thing. I don't know if we got enough publicity on it, but it's something to think about. And I was thinking also about all the things we're having downtown. I know you're aware of that, but one big thing that really I think about a lot is security. Because it seems like now that when you have these big things going on, there's some crazy person in the crowd who wants to do something crazy. So, David, what are we doing to make sure, say, even the soiree that we're supposed to have fun and enjoy each other, to make sure, as much as we can be sure, that we have security to protect the people who will be enjoying it, but not be afraid, you know, not be afraid to go places like you would go to Walmart, you know, just, it's a big deal. So what are we thinking about security-wise?
Sure, as Mr. Hartman mentioned, you know, hats off to amazing public safety personnel that we're grateful to have for our city. The representatives from Anderson County, we all work together. For any event that we have a security plan and emergency operations plan in place, and we practice that. We have now going on this is the 3rd year of this event, and so we have it very tight, the operations of that plan. So I can certainly discuss that more with you outside of the meeting. However, I want to assure that we do have a great plan in place for anything that should happen, including any medical emergency, if it should be hot that day. And our public safety folks, often you'll see them handing out water and helping out as well. So, but we'll have a lot of presence. And the other thing great about the event too, it's not just from that standpoint, but it gives our public safety professionals, the police and fire, our EMS partners, a chance to interact with the citizens, that sometimes those interactions are here and there. So we're excited about that opportunity as well.
Good. One last thing. So I received a call from one of the volunteers last week. And apparently they'd gone out and she had thanked, everyone and just bragged about the city and the team and Beth and everyone that was part of it, but realized that she had not publicly thanked two special people or two special teams. One, the police department for what they did, and most importantly, the transportation team, our city transit, and she said how spectacular they were. So promised her I would make that publicly known so that they would know themselves. So please relay that to.
We will. They did a phenomenal job.
Everybody,
it ran like clockwork.
Means a lot if somebody reaches out to you, I get your transportation.
Absolutely. I mean,
That's a pretty good sign.
It was a big deal that they got to where they needed to be on time, coordinated, and it was a lot of logistics behind that. And so we appreciate the transit department, Keith Moody, for leading that effort, and the coordination with Beth Batson and the executive team that coordinated that, and of course the mayor's leadership on working with Ms. Batson to land the conference in the first place.
Correct. Thank you, Mayor.
I think, probably the thing I heard from the conference attendants and were the way the 75 volunteers just took care of them. Everything that we need to do, and even getting back to the soiree volunteers. I mean, this is all about leveraging your citizens to help you on projects. And so hopefully, we do a good job, but I think these two events over the last, with the volunteers that help with the Michelin cities and soiree, I mean, you can't do things like this without your citizens participating.
That's right.
Good. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Mr. Harper and second by Dr. Thompson. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.